I've always been I describe myself as a marketing enthusiast. I'm really interested in all things marketing. And it goes back to the career that I had in marketing research. I joined the marketing research world many years ago, and we were always encouraged to not only observe what's happening in the marketing world, but to try and understand that important question, why? Why are the things happening? Is there a logical, or is there some form of explanation as to why things are happening the way that they are? And so over time and much observation, I've discovered that there are 5 basic principles which I think every business needs to apply to their marketing to maximize the effectiveness of their marketing. Now, the world of marketing has changed. Absolutely, I always start off with this. Back in the day, when my colleague Warwick Corder and I were with AC Nielsen many years ago, it feels like centuries ago, it is a portion of a century ago, the world was much more predictable. Marketing was quite solid. There were people who were doing brand building, they were doing things, and it was working for them. And over time, especially with the advent of the internet and this proliferation of information and the many sources of information that are now available to us, that the world of marketing changed. We used to rely on the mass media for advertising, especially television when that came along. And for a long time, print, TV, radio ads were supreme. That was, in fact, the only way you could reach a market. But the world has changed. Online has arrived. And so there are many voices coming at the market than what there might have ever been before. So I want to just share my screen. And so here I go with the 5 things you need to know to take your business forward. Before I get into those 5 things, there are another 5 things I want to consider. When I look around me, I see that business has been tough for some time. COVID and the economic downturn that came along with it has been very tough for the majority of businesses. Yes, there may be the 10% of businesses who either weren't affected by the pandemic or who actually thrived because of the particular, the type of business that they did. But for most of us, things have been pretty rough. And quite frankly, as we're sitting here now, we can't be absolutely sure about what will happen next. There's some pointers, but we're a long way from any certainty as to what happens next. However, here's a thing I'm absolutely sure of. Here's a thing over which there is zero doubt. I'm actually a statistician by training. And so as I examine economic trends, I'm absolutely certain that there will be a turnaround. Why am I so certain? Well, economic downturns come and go. We had quite a bad one in 2008. There have been little blips along the way. The Great Depression of the 30s was severe. But here's the thing. The effect of the world wars on the world economy was really devastating. But every time, there was a time when things came back to normal and the economies turned back to what we might consider normal. So there will be a turnaround. The question is when? When? Are we in it already? Are we waiting for it? I can't be absolutely sure. But what I am sure of while we're waiting for when is that now is the time for action. If we're going to wait for that turnaround and then get our marketing firing, it's too late. We're going to just be part of the noise. Now is the time to get it right. Now is the time to get in ahead of the herd. The fifth thing that I'm sure of is that there are basic marketing principles that are best practice. Now, mind you, and any other time and under any circumstances. These are not 5 things just for now. Yes, they are for now, but they are also for any time. So let's have a look at them. The first of these is the most important. Getting your business focused and understanding what makes it unique. This is a hard one. We need to understand that makes us different to the competitors. If we don't have anything that differs us from our competitors, we are just part of the pack, chasing the crumbs that are falling off the table. However, if we can identify what makes us unique and trade on that, then we will do well. There's a company that I follow. I'm an avid learner, and one of my sources of reference, definitely not the only one, but one of those that I really like to go to, is a company called McLabs. McLabs is an American company, a division of Marketing Experiments. Marketing Experiments is my language. I love marketing. Is marketing science or is it art? Well, I've already spoken. More and more as we go forward, it's become more art and less science. And no one knows for sure. There's not a rule book that you can go to on how to do your marketing. And what you need to do under those circumstances is test, because no one knows it all. And that's the basis of McLabs' proposition. And they define a term called the value proposition. And I'm particularly fond of their definition of the value proposition. Why? Because I know that it's effective, and if used properly, I've seen it time and time again deliver results. So here's what it says. It says, if I, or we, if I am your ideal prospect, why should I buy your company's product and service rather than your competitors? Now that might sound like quite a simple question, but I want to tell you, I've sat across the table with people who have struggled with this question, really struggled, because essentially it's asking the question, why are you in business? And if you're just, if you don't have a unique positioning, differentiation, it becomes really tough. And so we need to go and examine, and McLabs give a process for figuring this out. Why I, the prospect, should buy your product and service rather than your competitors. I'll tell you the other thing I like about this definition of the value proposition is that it's from the point of view of the prospect. It's from the point of view of the prospect, which makes it customer oriented. When I look at marketing, and I spend a fair bit of my day looking at people's marketing, I see that about 95, 94, 95% of all the marketing there. I challenge you, go and pick 20 websites at random. And what will you find? You'll find them telling the public, telling their prospects how great they are, how good they are, how excellent their products and services are, how much they care, where they've come from, how well they've done. All of it is from the company's point of view. And I put it to you, we need to make a major shift and see our business from the prospect point of view. We need to understand our differentiation. We need to understand our positioning. There are case studies of people who have found, almost by accident, if you will, a part of their business that just resonates with a particular with a particular target market. And when they've discovered that and they've traded with it, they have in that sector a position of dominance that if they were chasing after the same market that everybody else was going for, they would have just been another bunch of battlers and me too. So we have to have differentiation. We have to have positioning, something that makes us unique. Some textbooks call it a unique selling point. I think all of these things are referring to the same thing. Don't go, there's a temptation. And the temptation is to talk about what features or how great our products are. I want to say with respect, your products are great, so is everybody. You have good features. Your features don't matter to me, I'm the prospect, unless you can explain to me how those features make my life better. When you understand, and when I understand how your product make my life better, then we are talking the same language. The second thing that goes along with this is knowing who your customer is. The first part of that definition says, if I am your ideal prospect. Now, do we really know who we are for? Or are we following so many others who are drawn into the classic era, and that's to try and appeal to as broad a market as we possibly can? That's the temptation. We want to try and catch, we want to try and have as many people in our catchment as possible. And you know what? That may work, but it's much more likely that that's not going to work. Why? Because we can't be for everybody. And as important as knowing who it's for is knowing who it's not for. Because if we understand who our product is not for, we're not going to go and chase them. We're rather going to focus on that group of people for whom it's for. I'm also a student of Seth Godin. Very fortunate enough last year to do his training called the Marketing Seminar, 66 lessons in 66 weeks. Oh my, it was absolutely educational, mind-blowing. And he has a unique perspective on marketing. He says, don't go for the biggest market possible. In fact, go for the smallest market possible. Because if you can find that small market that you're relevant to, then that's going to take you a lot further than trying to appeal to as many people as we possibly can. Some people struggle with this, not knowing who their ideal prospect is. And I have a simple methodology that quite often delivers exactly that answer. My experience has been that every business, no matter how bad the business is, has some customers that absolutely love us. Even the worst businesses seem to have those dedicated customers who love us. And start off by going and having a look at what is it that makes our best customers love us, not just like us. For those few who can't live without us, what is it about what we do that makes that situation? And if we can understand, and if we can get a hold of it, then our challenge is to go and find other people who fit the same profile. I've already mentioned company-centric versus customer-centric. There's just one more thing I wanted to say on who is it for. Sometimes people tend to think of their target market in demographics. If it's business to business, I'm looking in this industry for people who do that type of activity, for people within the company who have this particular type of function, for companies of a particular size. And if it's consumer, we once again, male, female, age group, income group, etc. But it may well be that our best customers like us for something that's not demographic. Maybe it's for something in that we may describe as psychographic, something in the way that we think. Maybe it's something in the way that we relate to the world that resonates with the way that they relate to the world. There's a classic case. I happen to have an iPhone. I don't know why I'm an iPhone user. I can't give you a reason. I can't say this is better than any other phone, but for some reason, I click with that brand, and I've been loyal to it for many years. In fact, I didn't want to go there. My children, my sons, one of them who's in the audience today, made me go that way. And now I'm one of those. I know that there are cheaper options. I know that there are probably more value to be gained. I know that there are probably more powerful phones. But there's something about that brand that resonates with me, and I'm a captive market. So sometimes we need to think a bit deeper than just the demographics. The third thing that we need to do is to get our messaging right. When we go out into the marketplace, remember this saying that I'm about to tell you. Don't ask for a kiss on the first date. Those same sons tell me, oh, Dad, you're very old-fashioned. Maybe when you were a kid, that's how it was. But there's a point I'm trying to make. Don't ask for too much too soon. Imagine if I was that guy looking to try and meet my ideal partner from, and I see somebody, I see a girl maybe in a function, and I think, wow, this could be interesting. And I go draw up the courage to go and ask her some questions, and I get very technical. I say, at what age do you plan to get married? Are you going to be a career woman? How many children do you plan to have? You know what will happen to me? I'll get wiped out in 1 minute, because she'll say, whoa, this guy's heavy. He's just asking for too much. Let me leave this as possible. No, instead we go and make some chit chat. We want to find out, do we have something in common? Is there a connection on some level or another? And we talk about this and that, and sometimes about things that are not important at all, just to find out, is there a connection? And if there is, maybe sometime down the road, we ask for that first date. And if that first date works really well, we ask for a second date. And if things continue to go well, there comes a day when we pop the question, will you be my life partner? Whatever that question may be. But that's going to come quite a long way down from that first meeting. And yet in the marketing front, so many marketers are asking for a big commitment from their prospects the first time they've ever heard. And just like that girl or guy who's going to dump you if you come on too strong too soon, the same thing happens in our market. Marketing is about the long game. It is about the long game. We have to be patient. We have to understand that we're trying to build some franchise. We're trying to build some credibility that may only work for us in time to come. Sometimes, right place, right time, we get a payback immediately. But that's a bonus whenever it happens. We've got to understand that that marketing is very similar to dating, and you don't go in too hard, too early. We need to get our messaging and our strategy right. We need to have worked out that value proposition. We need to know who it's for. And then our messaging needs to be true to the value proposition, and it needs to be in the language of the people who are in that profile of people for whom it's for. We need to get that right. And a lot of marketing is in grand language and boasting and bragging. And as one of my mentors says, sir, your bragging makes me sick. Don't brag about how great you are. In fact, he's got quite a good way of putting it. He says, let others brag about how good you are, but you never brag. we've got to consider that the journey people come along from the time that they become interested in us to the time that they actually become customers is not always an instantaneous. There may be several things that might happen along the way. There may just be timing that's got to be right. And we need to build this into our messaging. There's a particular illustration in marketing that I really like. It's called the funnel. Here's a little funnel. And the idea of the funnel is that when we are marketing to people, we're bringing people into the top of our funnel. We're getting them interested. The best we can hope for is their attention and an ear to hear what we have to say. And the theory is that over time, people work their way down the funnel till eventually they're coming out at the bottom of the funnel as our paying customers. So I think there's some that illustration is partially true, except that I'm absolutely convinced that the funnel is not downturned, it's upturned. And we have people coming in at the bottom of our funnel. And we've got to work them up the funnel so that eventually they're coming out at the other end as our paying customers. And as one of my mentors says, the funnel is upturned. Gravity is not your friend. Gravity is not pushing people down your funnel. Instead, gravity is pulling people out of your funnel. What is gravity in that illustration? Gravity can be many things. The prospect loses interest. Your competitors become more interesting. They stop listening to you because they no longer find you interesting. Their world changes. I don't know. There are many things that we've pulled people out of our funnel. And we've got to do what we can to keep people within our funnel. And the best illustration that I've seen says we've got to think of micro steps, small gains that we make, moving people up the funnel, small yeses that they give us, until eventually we get the major yes. People see value in what they do, they put their money down. Mech Labs also describe this. There's an equation here, and they describe marketing as a fulcrum, a scale, if you will. And on the one end is the cost that people pay for being in your funnel. The other is the benefit that people perceive that they will gain from being your prospect and becoming your customer. And only when the benefit exceeds the cost are we in the game. Can we then go and pose the ultimate question? And so we have to build that value. We have to, in a very gentle way, let the prospect understand that there is value in what we have to offer. And bit by bit, here's how you get value if you use this product and service. We call those micro steps. The fourth point that I have here might seem fairly obvious. Delight your customer. Are we delivering excellent products and services to our existing customer base? The equation as to how much less it costs to do business with an existing customer compared to doing business with a new customer is varied. Some textbooks say 1/10, some say 1/7, some say 1/15, whatever. I don't think it exactly matters what the absolutely correct. My own feeling is about 1/10. Except I want to say it's a lot cheaper and a lot more convenient to do business with the people who already know us. And we need to look after them very well. We need to, among other things, measure customer satisfaction. Sometimes when I put my research hat, I've recently done some customer satisfaction surveys. I don't know, those of you who've been around a while, customer satisfaction surveys used to be all over the place about 20 years ago. They've gone out of fashion. And interestingly, there's been some brave companies who said, we're going to measure. We're actually going to survey our prospects and find out whether they're happy with what we have to offer. And there's a very interesting phenomenon. It happens fairly regularly. Somebody doesn't think they're just the greatest, and now they're being challenged. Yes, one of your customers or some of your customers who says, actually, your service is a bit shoddy. And so very often the response from management is denial. They don't know what they're talking about. No. But in fact, we have a saying, perception is reality, and we need to take those cases seriously because we might not be nailing it quite as well as what we think they are. We need to respect in every way our existing customers, because I have empirical research. It's beyond any doubt that trust is the most valuable marketing trait that we have in the 21st century. If we have the trust of our customers, we can have them either for life or for a very long time. The problem with trust is it takes ages to build. You don't build trust in one day. You build it over a long period of time. The danger of trust is that it is possible to lose it in one day. And so we need to be very careful about any situation which may come up, which may cause those precious customers to lose their trust in us. So here's a question. If it's better doing business with your existing customers, should we not bother with marketing and trying to gain new customers? Well, that's actually quite a silly question, because if we never got any new customers, eventually we would peter out. Eventually we would lose the existing customers and be in trouble. No, the best businesses value their existing customer base and are constantly marketing to try and build that customer base. So we need to be doing marketing, we need to be doing prospecting, and we need to be finding new people to bring into our fold. The fifth thing is really important. Everything's important, but this is really, keep in touch. We sometimes spend a fortune. I'm in the world of direct marketing, and I've seen people spend, I wouldn't say a fortune, but a lot of their resources getting new prospects. God bless them. That's what that business is there for. And there's nothing wrong with getting new prospects. But what's a crime is that sometimes if those people don't buy immediately, they get forgotten. And we need to keep in touch. We need to be moving our prospects up the funnel. I say it's my own cliche, you can quote me. Not everybody has a need for your product or service on the day that your marketing message gets to them. It's true, we don't need all the things all the time. But on the day that they do have that need, who are they going to remember? It had better be you. And how do we do that? How do we let them remember us? By constantly keeping in touch. And I'm a great proponent of regular communication. I say something that might seem like such an obvious thing. Keep a customer database, keep a prospect database. I'm in the world of database. I know I've done work for major companies who do not have, who've come quite late in the game to realize that they need to keep a customer database. It's doable. What I find every time a customer brings me, what typically, when they want their data to be combined into a database, what we found is that they have data which exists in little pockets. In sales, in accounting has some data, marketing has some data, the events people have some data. And when we bring it together, typically there's been no one working at keeping it up to date. What we find almost every time that we do this exercise is that once we've compiled all the data, put it together, 50% of it is garbage. 50% of it is out the door. 50% of it is out of date. That stat is so consistent. It blows my mind. That 50%, I'm not just making it. I've seen time and time again. However, you may say, well, that's a lot of effort to put in to lose 50% of your database. Well, that depends on how you look at it. Because what I can tell you is that the 50% that remain are pure gold. Those are the people who know you. Those are the people who support you. Those are the people who do business with you. And that is pure gold. So keep it customer database, clean your customer database. It's definitely worth doing. And then once you have that, communicate regularly with both customers and prospects. So I'm being a bit careful here. I'm using the word regularly. Many people ask me, how often is regularly? And I don't like to give a time frame because it depends on your business and how often it's relevant for you to be speaking to the prospect. There's some businesses for whom very regular communication is in order. They might be operating in an environment where information changes rapidly. And so there's value in letting people know that something has changed since yesterday or since last week or whatever. But for most of us, we don't. And if that describes your business, then communicate with them as often as you see fit. But for most businesses, that would just be too much. The danger is if we're just hitting them with communications all the time, they switch off. I'm being overloaded, yeah? And so to try and find a period of regularity, which gives us a little bit of distance, but not too much distance that they've forgotten about us. For most businesses, especially those who have other businesses as their customers, regularly, I recommend is monthly. Do a monthly communication. Some businesses can even go out as far as once a quarter. But whatever you've decided is your time frame, the key word is regularly. It's got to be done all the time. For communication to work, it's got to be regular. And if it's going to be monthly, that monthly date has got to be sacrosanct. It can't happen one month and not the next month, which is a thing that I've seen over and over and over again. What do you say when you communicate? Well, typically, we're trying to inform the prospects. We're trying to tell them something that may be an insight into what's happening in the world, an insight on what's happening in our industry, an insight in what's happening in their industry, where they're going to look at it and gain some information. Don't be long. Typically, a 2 to 3 minute read is great. Don't expect people to spend much longer than that to read your thing, unless they've shown a particular level of interest in some facet. And keep it interesting. No one wants to read something that's boring. Why? Because I may do it once. I may even do it twice, but by the third time I see that boring monotone, boom, it's out. I'm either going to unsubscribe, or worse still, I'm going to just delete it as soon as it comes in. And so I'm a proponent of outsourced communication. It's not everybody who are content producers. And if you're not, get a professional who knows how to do it, but make sure it happens regularly. So here's a question. How are things going in your world? I usually ask if there are any questions, and maybe I neglected to do. Pop, if there's something that you're particularly interested in, if there's an insight that you have, put it in the chat, please. So I'm going to tell you some of the questions that people bring to me. A lady quite distressed. They called me and said, Tony, we're in a market where we are forced to import our products. There's no local production in South Africa, and we have to import this particular product. And the exchange rate is going all over the place, and it's hard for us to be competitive, not knowing what our costs are going to be the next time around. I said, ma'am, how do your competitors do it? Now we all have the same problem. We all have exactly the same problem. I thought about it for a while, and I thought that short of timing the exchange rates and trying to put your transactions through on a given date, find some aspect that in your business and in your industry where you're supplying a service that goes over and above what your competitors do, so that you're not just a price play. Add some value to the service. Morris, I think it's Morris, I don't know if that's a spelling error or Morsi, but I'm going to say Morris, asks us, what's your current view on SEO trends? Thanks, Morris. I think all the principles that are the 5 things apply, have got to be applicable in your SEO if you're wanting to bring people to your website. We've got to make sure that we are unique, we're speaking to the right people. Sometimes people in SEO are particularly subject to wanting to get as many people as they possibly can to click, and that may not be the case. We may be only looking for a few people who have a very particular mindset, Morris. I think more, just as important, or maybe even more important, is, and I want to just say I'm not an expert on SEO. I know enough about SEO to be dangerous. But what happens when a person clicks? What happens when they arrive on your website? The funnel, the micro steps, are they in place? Are they going to take somebody from being a bystander? Percy, SEO, search engine optimization. It's the part of marketing that you add to, or not add, that you weave into your marketing messaging for online, so that when people go and they're Googling something, they get your URL rather than, or that you're higher up on the list than your competitors. As I said, I'm unashamedly a fan of direct marketing. I'm sometimes a little bit skeptical about, sure, and I'm really exposing myself here, please don't leave. Sometimes I'm a bit skeptical about online marketing per se. I'm very skeptical about marketing on social networks, because I believe you need to market in the environment where your prospects hang out. When I see people running B2B ads in Facebook, I say to myself, really? Do your prospects go into Facebook looking for a supplier? I doubt it. I spend quite a lot of time in YouTube, and when I get that there's a by now famous LinkedIn ad that says when you advertise on LinkedIn, you get people in the state of mind that they want to do business, and there's a guy in the gym looking at his phone, obviously looking through his LinkedIn. LinkedIn, get real. I have a great respect for LinkedIn. I think there's a value, but don't try and tell me that a guy in a gym somewhere is looking at his phone to try and find a supplier for product X. Really, I'm unashamedly a fan of email marketing. I believe it's the best medium, particularly for business to business, because it gets people in a place where they hang out. Yes, we all get a lot of mail coming across our desk every day, but it's at our desk. And if we can use the medium effectively, I have clients who are using the medium extremely well and getting great results. The other difference between online SEO and direct marketing is about what we call pull and push marketing. So when you're online, you're relying on people looking for what you have to offer. And fantastic, if people know what they're looking for and go to your website, that's gold. But many times, they don't really know that they may have a need for your product and service. They don't know what the value is that might come. And so when you use push marketing, I'm trying to tell you about something you may not even know about it. Those returns can be so much better. I'm happy to chat with anyone in the days and weeks which lie ahead. So I want to just say in conclusion, have you modified your business to the lockdown environment? Hopefully we're going to be out of the lockdown. One of these days, I'm going to change this to say, have you modified your business now that we are out of the lockdown environment? And the lockdown sometimes I think is not just physical, having to wear a mask, but I think sometimes it's psychological as well. There are still many people isolating, and sometimes that isolation is not just physical, but it's psychological as well. Are you keeping in touch with your customers? Are you testing? So here's the thing. In 2 weeks' time, and after this year, I'm going to write you. I have once a month, I have a special. This particular webinar is fairly general. It's looking at the basics. But once a month, I do a deep dive. I take one aspect of marketing and look at it thoroughly. Now, if marketing is half art and half science, how are you going to know which half is working and which half is not working? There's a question. There's an answer. Testing. And so in 2 weeks' time, I'm doing a masterclass on research and testing, where I'm getting very specific about testing. What, when, where, how, why. And I would like you to come, if you've got any value from today, I'd like you to come to my masterclass. I'll send you the details. The other thing that I want to ask you is, are you being brave? Because marketing is not for the faint-hearted. Marketing is not for the bureaucrats. Marketing is for the people who are prepared to put their chin out there and expose themselves to potential danger. Hopefully the benefits exceed the danger, and marketing is worthwhile. What I'm offering is, I have 5 slots, 5 one-hour slots in the next week, which I'm happy to make available to any of the attendees today at no cost. Either put your email address in the chat, or later on today, I'm going to send you the details of the recording and you can reply to my mail. Just don't be too slow, because 5 slots is all I have. I'd love you to join me. I'd love to hear what's happening in your world, and I'd love to thanks for the people who are putting the and I'll be Percy, Cheryl, Natasha, there may be others. I'll be in touch with you to find a time that works for both of us. And I believe that there's importance in establishing a marketing community. Sometimes marketing people work in isolation, and it's not good. It doesn't help anybody. When I trained with Seth Godin's institution, what they would do is they would put you in classes online. The classes came from all over the world. And sometimes there was such great benefit in just chatting to somebody from Thailand, Europe, USA, Canada, Australia, Outer Hebrides, just getting an insight of somebody there, not feeling we're in this all alone. And I'm dedicated to building a marketing community. So you're going to hear from me. Come and join me on the journey. People, with that, thank you very much for your time. Said 45 minutes, I've gone to 49. I'll try and make the 4 up somewhere along the way. Thanks very much, people. And I look forward to bumping into you somewhere along the way. And if there's anything else that you want to ask me, you're welcome to reply to the mail that I send you, and I'll do my best to help. As a business, we have paid marketing products and we have free marketing products. I'd like to give you an introduction to both. And there are many people who are not ready for a paid service, and I'm quite happy for them to stay with the free service. But for those who are ready, we try and provide services in education, in consulting, and in networking. So thanks very much, and I'll speak to you all soon. Cheerio. Bye.